Hello,
Good morning.
my name is Pastor Paul,
My name is Pastor Raven.
and it is a joy for us to meet with you today on Exploring Biblical Wisdom's Hymn Edition. Today is the last of our series for the season of Lent. We are in our final week. We've been tuning in together and focusing in on hymns as the source of our biblical wisdom, and today is the last week that we will be doing so. We will be on break next week, and then we will assess how we can best provide spiritual formation tools, guides for all of you who are tuning in. I'm not sure right now if a Zoom meeting or a Bible study or studying the hymns even further would be best. If you want to comment below with what you think we ought to do moving ahead, please do so, and I will be sure to pay attention to your thoughts. But for today, what is our hymn?
When I Survey the Wondrous Cross. And if you're looking in your hymnal, there are actually two versions of it. But we're doing number 298.
Okay. Please play for us. Thank you. Amen. Do you have some initial thoughts or a story that comes to mind when you hear this hymn?
To me, the music of this is particularly beautiful. But the words, you can't read the words without feeling, I don't know what word to use, the importance, the centrality of who Jesus is in our lives.
Mm-hmm.
And the second verse, forbid it, Lord, that I should boast, save in the death of Christ. My God, all the vain things that charm me most, I sacrifice them to his blood.
Mm-hmm.
So that got me to thinking of, what are these vain things that charm us?
Mm.
Is it something like importance, how we want to be important? Is it our physical beauty? So take a second and think about that. What vain things in your life charm you?
That's a great question for us to think upon, especially this week. This hymn was selected because of its framework for Holy Week. I have a story to share, but I think I might share it after. It'll be helpful after we have some more understanding of where this hymn comes from.
Okay.
The hymn comes to us by the one and only Isaac Watts, who hopefully you may be familiar with his name. He wrote several hundred, I think over 500, 600 hymns in the English language, and so...
But when you say he wrote hymns, as a musician, I think of music, but you meant words.
Correct. So if you have not already caught on to this, when we've been saying these hymns were written by someone, we do mean that the hymn lyrics were written by these individuals. The melodies are a mix of different composers, sometimes not even a single person, but more tunes that were familiar at that time that we have not been able to trace historically very well. It's one of the reasons why this hymn is in two different versions. They are both written by Isaac Watts. I want to say Sir Isaac Watts, but it's not. By Isaac Watts, but the melodies were composed by different people, which is why you have to... Can you play the second one?
Let me just play the beginning of the second version. So that's quite different.
Yeah, but the lyrics would be the same. Yeah. Isaac Watts became a pastor and was looking for and was hoping to find words for a hymn to be sung to complement communion, and in particular the crucifixion. And so these were not unlike songs that were inspired by certain events in life or inspired because a mood that they were in. This hymn was written almost as a pastor would be writing a sermon. Very intentional, and also very the intentional use of language is very apparent in our hymns. The lyrics are very powerful. You can't, like you said, you cannot sing these or think of these, read these lyrics and not visualize the cross. And I thought the reason why I selected this hymn for this week was because in the way that Isaac Watts had intentionally placed his focus on the crucifixion of Christ and communion when he wrote the song. This week is really about our intentionality, isn't it? No one else who's not a Christian really, this week doesn't mean anything different from last week or next week. It's just another week.
Except all the Easter candy is now
on sale because they're having trouble getting rid of them from the stores. For us, those who are followers of Christ, I feel a call to live intentionally this week into focusing and giving focus to Christ, especially on the cross and what that significance is for us. So that's where my story comes from. Again, these hymns are familiar from an early age, but in my freshman year, this was in Korea, there was a retreat. The retreat was very much like the retreat here, Walk to Emmaus program. The Walk to Emmaus program. The Korean churches, they formed spiritual development formation program similar. It's called Thorns, 3 days. Same, almost identical, just different leaders. And on one of the worship services that we were having, these words became, like you said, real to me for the first time. They were words to a song before, and I would sing them and sure, but during this retreat, the words became my own. And I remember just crying profusely. What was significant was that in that space, often in worship, there's the cross symbol somewhere. I have several crosses around me. This one here, there's one on that wall. There were no crosses in this room, and yet it was so visible in my mind because of the song.
Because of these words, it makes me feel sad. I have a feeling of almost hurt inside because of these words. And the last verse, were the whole realm of nature mine, that were an offering far too small, love so amazing, so divine, demands my soul, my life, my all. Mm-hmm. I've been reading a book about one of the early Catholic saints. The book is called Catherine of Siena. She was a 14th century nun, and she took to heart those words, it demands my soul, my life, my all, because she became part of a convent. Mm. She became one of the Catholic sisters. And her book is just full of words of devotion and self-examination. But I think when we in this 21st century read and take to heart those words, we can ask ourselves, how does the life, the death, the resurrection of Christ affect us? So in this Holy Week, this might be a good focus for meditation for imagining and feeling how much God loves us through this gift of Jesus Christ. I brought a cross, by the way. I also have many crosses, and this was given to me by a parishioner many years ago, but it is so beautifully done, and the wood is carved very carefully and painstakingly, and I adore it.
That's
it's beautiful.
Really great craftsmanship.
I have it on this chair next to my gloves.
Speaking of which, it's one of the reasons why we are reviewing what we might be offering ahead, because we no longer feel that recording a meeting like this, although I feel safe in this space, and
I do also.
It's probably not, it does not match the sensitivity and the awareness that we are looking for in our community, and so wanting to be proactive in that measure. So stay tuned to find out more about what this will look like ahead. For this week, may you spend some time intentionally in this art of devotion. It is there are no correct ways to be devoted unto Christ or to draw near to God. There are many ways, in fact, but whatever you feel and you think is your utmost, that you might offer it to God this week, and that we would walk toward Easter Sunday together. Peace be with you. Take care.